The National Republican Party, as we go into a presidential cycle, is willfully underfunded. And what financial resources they do have are being misappropriated. And we're going to talk about it. But first, welcome back, Patriots. Welcome back to Sons of Liberty 1773. This is indeed where men and women from around the world gather in defense of liberty. I'm your host, Bill Bailey, who will be channeling the patriotism of America's founding fathers. Today is November 27th, 2023, year of our Lord. Did you know on December 4th, 1789, the letter to David Hartley, Ben Franklin wrote the following: God grant that not only the love of liberty, but a thorough knowledge of the rights of man may pervade all the nations of the earth, so that a philosopher may set his foot anywhere on its surface and say, this is my country. Unfortunately, Ben Franklin, the world is turning dark and evil, and our rights are being trampled on, even here in America, but we're working to fix it. If I could go back in time and be my young self again and had a time machine, I would go back to the very beginning of the Revolutionary War. You would find me at the Green Dragon Tavern, drinking ale and hanging out with Sam Adams and the other rabble-rousers, because the cause was just unto good fighting evil, right? But I can't do that, and neither can you. But here we are today, and we're up against a tyrannical government that is in many ways worse. I mean, when you think of the surveillance and the taxation, the evil in our government, I think it's probably much worse than the British Empire at the founding of this country. So we're living in exciting times, and historians are going to write about this era that we're living through, these times. And I just pray it's a good story where, once again, good conquered evil. And I believe it will be. Any of you who follow me, I've said in the past, I cannot stand movies or books where evil wins. It just pisses me off. And I think, Orwell's 1984, which is just this masterpiece. Okay, it's brilliant. And if you haven't read it, you need to read it. It's not a long book, and you will get sucked right in. But I despise it because the tyrannical state broke Winston and Julia. I mean, evil won. And Orwell just screwed up, right? It should have been called 2023. But he certainly wrote about the times we're living. The ministry of truth and, all the evil that comes out of complete and total authoritarian government. Ronna Romney Mcdaniels isn't getting the job done. And, when she was first running, and I was at the Michigan State Republican Convention when she was running for Michigan chair, and she was running against Norm Hughes, which was literally on the Reagan administration, a true conservative. But, Michigan's full of rhinos. We had a lot of rhino precinct delegates. And she had the name, Romney. And she paraded that around, man. It was Ronna Romney Mcdaniel. Notice she don't do that anymore. She kind of hyphenated that part out as just Ronna McDaniel. Guaranteed Mitt likes Ronna. But she's just not getting the job done, and it's making a lot of news today. The funds that the RNC currently has, and I always got to make sure that you guys can see this, folks. You can. RNC, this is over at Post Millennial. RNC fundraising falters as coffers sink to $9.1 million. Going into election season, lowest amount since 2015. Ahead of the 2024 election, the Republican National Committee has dropped to a low of $9.1 million in cash on hand, the lowest in any federal election commission report since February 2015. According to the Washington Post, at the same point during the 2016 election, the committee had around $20 million on hand. And 4 years ago, when Trump was in office, the number was $61 million. Some donors, and I wanted to highlight this part because I know this is absolutely true. Some donors said they weren't giving to the committee because they think it will help Trump. Imagine that, folks, that it'll help Trump, who gave us 4 years of peace and prosperity. It was putting America first and the power back with we the people. These big mega rhino donors do not want to give to the RNC because, my God, it might help Trump. While others said they were waiting until 2024 to donate, and others have become frustrated with the party's leadership, which I believe is true too. RNC Chairman Ronna Mcdaniel told the outlet that donors are more interested in giving to individual candidates at the moment, and donations to the party would improve once there's a nominee. We know who the nominee is going to be, Ronna. It's going to be Trump. But you're holding these primaries with rhinos and people that don't have a prayer and wasting the precious resources we do have when it should all be going to elect Trump. I can tell you during the 2020 election, folks, that firsthand, that Matt DePerno, Christina Caramo, and Tudor Dixon were begging the RNC to give them money so they could win here in Michigan, and didn't get much, if any, was the net result. And Scott Pressler, who we like, he is a patriot. He just posted this earlier today on X, formerly Twitter. The RNC has big problems. It only has $9.1 million in cash on hand, the lowest amount since February of 2015. The small dollar program isn't performing well, and some major donors aren't cutting large checks because of party leadership. Furthermore, the debates have flubbed, and one of them was even scheduled on the same night as the Country Music Association Awards. No one's watching them. No one's watching the debates. We're wasting money and time. This is the uniparty rhinos thinking that, somehow we're going to knock Trump out with all this lawfare, get him off the ballot, put him in prison for 700 years, and then we'll get one of our establishment people in. So it's important for us to have these debates. No, Trump is going to be the nominee, and he is going to be the president. We are going to elect Trump president. He is going to win. The frustration reached a boiling point after November 2023 losses, especially when it received that VAGOP Chairman Rich Anderson asked the RNC for funding. He was denied, just like I said, Tudor, Matt DePerno, and Caramo were. 2/3 of the 168 members, the committee that makes up the RNC, are up for re-election in the spring. And you mega warriors that, never have been involved in politics and have ran part of the precinct strategy as precinct delegates to get elected as a precinct delegate. And these are, I'll hold them up. These are all lanyards for me attending Michigan Republican conventions, which I don't enjoy, by the way. I always leave there with my stomach in knots and thinking, it's so effed up. We're full of rhinos. I mean, they're basically Democrats. How are we going to ever turn the Michigan Republican Party around? But it's happening, folks. Whenever you take power from someone, what do? That they've enjoyed for decades, right? They just don't give it to you. They're going to fight. They're going to work against you. They're going to pull their funding. So a lot of this stuff is just because we're winning is why there's no money. But I do believe we're going to ultimately win. Many of those running voted for the current party leadership. They need to answer for the abysmal fundraising, years of losses in their votes. Something has to change, and I think Ronna Romney needs to go. I think President Trump sees her as an ally because she helped him in 2016. But all she's did is lose one election after the next since 2016. And, Trump is one of these guys that one of the things I thought with Trump, at least when you screw up, it's nothing personal, you're fired. I got to have people doing the job. We're trying to save the country. And I think Trump needs to put some pressure on her to just be gone. Man, there's an incredible endorsement letter. I'm going to share it with you next. From Bernie Marcus, co-founder of Home Depot. It's not long, folks, but you got to hear it. Because he really hits, I think he's, writes what we're all feeling, and I just know he does. So let me share that right now. Let me get rid of this. Sorry, folks, a little sleep at the wheel here. Anyways, high stakes and a simple choice, and this is op-ed by Bernie Marcus, who is a co-founder of Home Depot, who is an older man now, who would probably like to be enjoying his retirement years. But here's his letter. I am a 94-year-old, and like many of you, I am exhausted by politics and saddened by what I see happening to America. I had hoped it was time for me to move to the sidelines and let younger generations continue the fight to preserve America's founding freedoms and values. But, like so many of us, I realized that I could not let myself walk away. The stakes are just too high. We cannot let the America we see today be what we leave to our children and grandchildren. Many of our once great cities have devolved into lawlessness with random violent attacks on innocent people, rampant looting, and large-scale homeless encampments. There are rarely consequences for the wrongdoers because George Soros elected prosecutors across America refuse to prosecute them. Moreover, our southern border is unprotected and millions of people we know nothing about pour into our nation to receive care and benefits that we cannot afford to provide to our struggling military veterans. Worse, many of the border crossers may be gang members who commit violent crimes here. School children across America cannot read, write, or do basic math, while our educational leaders tell us that they know better than parents how to raise our children. Working men and women are struggling to provide for their families and must raid the retirement funds just to feed, clothe, and take care of their children. These are just a few of the problems America is facing after 3 years of bad government policies. They cannot be our legacy. This should not be a partisan issue. This should be an issue for all Americans, Democrats, Republicans, and independents, that I hope to reach with this op-ed. You enjoy the freedoms and values on which the nation was founded. Sadly, I see these freedoms and values being eroded today as government gets bigger and weaponized against its political opponents. I wrote this op-ed because of my love for America, not for any financial gain or advantage. I've been retired for 30 years and spend my time engaged in philanthropy causes, with which I have committed to share 90% of my net worth. I was born here and can give testimony about the American dream. I lost my job and was broke when I was 48 years old. A dear friend of mine suggested that my misfortune presented a great opportunity to build a small business based upon an idea I had shared with him. Only in America, the land of opportunity, could being without a job and broke be a great opportunity. In 1978, my partners and I built 4 hardware stores, and this small business grew and is known as Home Depot. We could have only done this in America because of America's system of free enterprise and pro-jobs growth government policies. The state of America today, especially record inflation, government overregulation, and the problems of the last 3 years would prevent my partners and I from succeeding as we have. Part of our legacy must be passing on to future generations of Americans our founding freedoms and values, including the American dream. We must change the current trajectory of the nation and solve the problems created in the last 3 years. We must also reject calls from some politicians to replace our free market system with big government socialism. Most of them seem to have never had a job outside the government. All they know is making government bigger and more intrusive in the lives of America. I wrote above that I wanted to sit on the sidelines of politics, but the stakes were too high for me to just walk away. The stakes are America's path forward. Do we want to continue the perilous trajectory we are now on? I do not, because it would be disastrous for all Americans except the political elite. For Democrats, the choice is simple. If you feel that you are better off now than you were 3 years ago, you should go vote for Joe Biden or whoever the Democrat candidate is. For Republicans, the choice is also simple. Let's face it, Donald Trump is going to win the nomination. Hello, Ronna Romney McDaniels. You should be doing all you can to ensure his winning the general election. I understand the frustration of some of my Republican friends who do not like or are offended by the things Donald Trump does and says. I, too, have been frustrated at times, but we cannot let his brash style be the reason we walk away from his otherwise excellent stewardship of the United States during his first term in office. Now is the time for unity to save the American dream for future generations. For these reasons, I endorse Donald J. Trump as the nominee of the Republican Party and as our next president. I endorse him not only because he has the best chance of winning the general election, but because he is the best person to take on and dismantle the administrative state that is strangling America. The new war in the Middle East will present great challenges for the free world for some time, especially in keeping other terrorist groups or nations out of the conflict. This will require a president with the judgment, strength, decisiveness, and courage that Donald Trump displayed in his first term when he ordered the strike that killed the Iranian terrorist General Soleimani and dissuaded Russia from invading Ukraine. Many, including myself, believe that Hamas would not have unleashed its barbarism and cruelty on Israel if Donald Trump was our president today. The reason is America's enemies respect and, more importantly, fear Donald Trump's judgment, strength, decisiveness, and courage. It is critical that America's next leader have these attributes in the face of Hamas, murdering innocent babies, old people, including Holocaust survivors, entire families, burning alive innocent people, raping women and young girls, and other unspeakable acts. I urge my fellow Democrats, Republicans, and independents to put their love for America above all else. I urge the Republican National Committee to end the Republican debates that only benefit ad makers and political consultants. They are unproductive and embarrassing. Bernie Marcus, again, is the co-founder of Job Creators Network, a philanthropist, and a retired co-founder of the Home Depot. Thank you, Bernie Sanders, and I could not agree more with every word you wrote. We've got to get behind saving this country. And it just pisses me off when you ask these people, what's your problem with Trump? He was president for 4 years. Tell me one policy, one thing he did that you had a problem with, that wasn't good for America and Americans, that wasn't putting this country first above other countries. Silence. Well, what was it? And finally, they get pissed because they can't give you an answer because he did nothing that wasn't good for America. They'll say, I don't like the way he talks. And I'm thinking, he's a New Yorker. Have you ever met a New Yorker? They're all full of themselves. I love Trump's boldness. I love the fact that he's not a politician because, folks, I've stood toe-to-toe with many politicians. And when you ask them a question that's a little bit loaded because you want to know where they stand on a hot topic, there's a pause, okay? There's this uncomfortable pause. They all do it. Because you know what they're thinking? How can I give Bill Bailey an answer that won't make him not vote for me again? How can I keep him happy? What BS can I feed Bill so he'll keep voting for me? Ain't the case with Donald Trump. There is no pause. He just tells you what he's thinking. And I appreciate that. And I don't care if he cusses or whatever, however he puts it, however it comes out of him. Because I know he is absolutely telling me the truth. And I think that's why people love Donald Trump. Do I think Do I wish he was as polished and classy a speaker as Ronald Reagan? At times. But I got to tell you, Ronald Reagan wouldn't have beat Hillary Clinton. He wouldn't have won the Republican nomination because I just think he was too nice. We needed, we're in times now where we need somebody that will, fist fighter. And Donald Trump's the man for the times. I believe God is using Donald Trump. So let's get some more stories, folks. A lot of news to cover, and I'll kind of go through some of these headlines quickly. Trump is on the offense, by the way. Okay, he's fighting back. Just such a patriot. He really is the George Washington of our time. Trump lawyers file motion for discovery in Jack Smith case, demanding documents regarding informants and undercover agents related to January 6th. Listen to this, folks. I love this. Trump's attorney filed a motion for discovery in special counsel Jack Smith, who is a deep state communist piece of crap, in my opinion, demanding documents regarding informants and undercover agents related to January 6th. Here's the meat and potatoes. Please provide all documents regarding informants, cooperatives, undercover agents, representatives, or anyone acting in a similar capacity on behalf or at the behest of the Department of Justice or any law enforcement agency who was present at or within 5 miles of the United States Capitol on January 6, 2021, Trump's lawyers wrote in a 9-page discovery letter. Trump's trial date for Jack Smith's January 6 case is currently scheduled for March 4th, 2024. It is indeed election interference, such as this next one is. Colorado Supreme Court sets appeals hearing in case to kick Trump off ballot. Colorado Supreme Court, it's loaded with lefties, has has scheduled a hearing for December 6th, not far from now. Excuse me, folks. To consider cross appeals on a case to prevent former President Donald Trump from appearing on the ballot for the presidency in 2024. The plaintiffs, led by, don't you love the way these communist organizations that are working to destroy our representative republic, name their organizations? The plaintiffs, led by Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics, anything, certainly what they're not, in Washington, which has ties to the controversial media matters, of course, seek to overturn Judge Sarah Wallace's ruling that Trump is not an officer in the United States as defined by the 14th Amendment, and that the amendment therefore cannot be used to disqualify him from appearing on the Colorado primary ballot. And just so you know, Judge Sarah Wallace is a lefty loon. She wrote this decision purposely so it could go to the Supreme Court of Colorado and get overturned. They could say, no, Trump actually is an officer and he can be removed under the 14th Amendment. Actually, no, Trump can't. He wasn't in the Confederacy. It's a Civil War amendment. It was put in place to stop people that were in the Confederate government from running for office, getting elected, and creating turmoil in the Reconstruction era. So, no. The Colorado case or a similar case in another state could potentially make its way to the U.S. Supreme Court. It will. But time is of the essence, which necessitated the expedited hearing. Ballots for Colorado's primary, which takes place in March 5th, 2024, must be certified by January 5th. So we'll see what the Colorado court does. Their decision will be overturned if they rule against Trump. I can promise you that. But, I think part of it is, and this is a main part of it, is to keep Trump tied up in lawsuits and lawfare. They're everywhere. Sue them for whatever you can. When you don't have something to sue them for, make it up. Like the idiot liberal clown did in New York. Said Trump, well, the banks all got paid off, all the insurance companies, no complaint. Trump paid back hundreds of millions of dollars in interest. Banks were happy with Trump. Well, they may not have complained, but I'm pretty sure there was a crime, and I think he probably overinflated his assets, and I'm going to hold a trial, find him guilty, and take everything he owns. It's literally what they're trying to do. We have a hero in Donald Trump. Really is the George Washington of our time. Donald Trump challenges Joe Biden to take cognitive exam. Remember when they said Trump isn't fit for office? Oh my God, he's an idiot, he's stupid. Remember that was a big narrative by the left. They all jump on the bag. Well, oh my God, Trump, he's just not smart. How can he run the country? He should take a cognitive exam. And Trump did, and he aced it because he really is brilliant. But look at Biden doesn't know what day it is. He doesn't know if he's coming or going. And the only thing he does, and I think it's memory reflex, is sniffing little kids. That he seems to remember. This guy can't have the nuclear codes. This guy is not fit to be the leader of the free world. And we all know how he got in office, right? Former President Donald Trump, who performed exceptionally on a recent, because he just took another one, cognitive exam, according to his doctor, is calling on President Joe Biden to undergo similar testing. They're not going to let him do it because he's not fit for office. I don't think he needs a cognitive exam. I think we all see it, right? This is actually frightening, folks. I shared this on a community post. Representative Mike Gallagher says FBI and CDC refused to investigate illegal secret CCP-linked biolab in California. This was supposed to be a vacant building that was stumbled upon. This is a Chinese nationalist who's being funded by the Chinese Communist Party. And just listen to what's going on. I just took some excerpts out of this article. Prestige Biolab was able to operate 35 freezers and refrigeration devices without anyone questioning the electrical draw that would be required for a building that was supposed to be vacant, according to city manager Nicole Ziba. When investigators entered the building on July 5th, however, the power to the refrigerators and freezers was lost, but the biological samples were, thank God, still frozen. Down here a little further. The criminal charges don't begin to capture what really happened inside the vacant warehouse in Central California, where an illegal immigrant from China operated an unregulated underground lab. Zhao Xu, who also goes by 5 aliases, pled not guilty just yesterday or a couple days ago to lying to federal officials and mislabeling medical products. But here's a lab. When it was raided last year, dozens of freezers hooked to illegal wiring, vials of blood, jars of urine, and thousands of lab mice in soiled containers. Inspectors found, listen to this, folks, refrigerators full of deadly viruses: COVID, chlamydia, E. coli, hepatitis, herpes, HIV, malaria, and Ebola. How do you get Ebola? I mean, how do you even get this stuff? And they didn't want to investigate this stuff. It took heat from a congressman to get the CDC to go check this place out. How many of these are operating in America? You know what the problem is, folks? They're not looking for this stuff because they're looking for you. They're looking for me. They're looking for all those American patriots, the basket of deplorables, the ones that Obama said clinging to their guns and religion. Anybody with a Bible, a Constitution, and a gun is an enemy of the tyrannical regime that is unfortunately controlling this country right now. Further in this article, on Sunday, while discussing the ongoing concerns regarding the geopolitical stance of Israel and the strategies against Hamas, Representative Gallagher shifted focus to the internal threat posed by unauthorized biolabs on U.S. soil. He expressed dismay at the inadequate response from both the FBI and CDC regarding the Wheatley Biolab, which had been operated by a Chinese citizen linked to intellectual property theft and illegal financial transactions. According to the congressman, the establishment of the lab went unnoticed by federal agency until a local building inspector stumbled upon a suspicious setup. Inside the building, officials discovered lab-coated individuals, mostly Chinese nationals, operating with pathogens, including Ebola and HIV, labeled in Mandarin. Despite this, the CDC did not immediately test potential samples even after inspecting the site, and the FBI allegedly refused to investigate due to the lack of ties to weapons of mass destruction. The FBI said, well, we can't investigate because there's no ties to WMDs, which is absurd. But, go get the Catholic conservatives or go send the midnight raids of SWAT teams to arrest mom or dad or grandma and grandpa that attended the peaceful protest on January 6th. But, a Chinese-run biolab in America, they don't want to mess with that. Unbelievable, isn't it? They called the CDC. The CDC hung up on them initially, and it wasn't until a local congressman got on the case that the CDC was forced to send a team to investigate. And that wasn't until many, many months later, Gallagher said. So this has revealed a huge soft underbelly in our domestic national security. It's incredibly troubling. We need to do more to prevent this from happening. We've all seen what can happen to our society when we don't have vigilance against potential pathogens in a pandemic in the last few years. And we know beyond anything else, the one thing that the pandemic should have taught us is that you cannot trust the Chinese Communist Party when it comes to this issue. Isn't this unbelievable, folks? Just the state of we're in perilous times. On the financial end, inflation's through the roof. It's going to continue to get worse. Deficit's $2 trillion a year. National debt's exploding. People are living hand to mouth. They have no disposable income left. Charge card debt, charge card debt is the highest it's ever been. Average American savings is the lowest it's ever been. And we're crashing, folks. I'm just telling you, my opinion, it's going to get really bad. America's sixth largest bank announces closures of 19 additional branches nationwide after closing 203 branches in 2023. And this is PNC. I've banked with them for many years. I don't now, but I have in the past. Major U.S. banks are continuing their plans to shut down branches nationwide, resulting in a growing number of Americans being left without access to essential financial services. America's sixth largest bank, PNC, has confirmed the closure of 19 more branches nationwide following a staggering 203 branch closures earlier this year. The decision, aligning with the bank's shift towards digital banking, is raising concerns among consumers who prefer traditional banking methods. I can tell you just some inside knowledge that I have here in northern Michigan. The title companies that I deal with, big company up here in northern Michigan, they do a lot of transactions. The girl's been there for years, told me, one of the closing agents I usually use, that their company is asking them to take voluntary layoffs. And she said, I can't do that. I can't. She has a young family, children to feed and clothe and bills to pay, and she can't be without a job. And she said, I may have to work part-time serving pizzas or whatever. And she will do whatever she needs to because she doesn't have a choice. And not only that, she's a worker. And then a closing I just had, the customer who I'm friends with said he was at the bank switching some money around. And the teller said that they haven't did a mortgage in weeks. And it's a big bank. Mortgage officers at the banks are being laid off big time. interest rates have creeped up to 8%. Now, somebody that's as old as me, 8% seems like a good rate to me because I can remember, 10, 12, 14. So 8%, there's a time I would have been, jumping up and down to get a loan for 8%. But the problem is people are used to 3%, 4%, and they've balanced their financial life based on mortgage payments on a 3, 4, 5% mortgage. They can't make ends meet when you factor in inflation and an 8% mortgage. So it's going to get worse, folks. I think mortgage rates will continue to go up. Here is a sign of the times, the one world order, the globalists that are trying to take over. The UN, that building in New York, we should plan it we should implode the place. And, one of those big implosions where they set the charges and it falls in on itself and build something nice there. Something American. Maybe Colt or Remington or somebody can make a gun manufacturing plant there. But the UN has a plan to control speech online, and they have a plan to take all our guns. A powerful United Nations agency has unveiled a plan to regulate social media and online communications while cracking down on what is described as false information and conspiracy theories, sparking alarms among free speech advocates and top U.S. lawmakers. It is in its 59-page report, why you can't be trusted to say things online, released this month, the UN Educational, Cultural, and Scientific Organization. Don't you love how flowery that is? The UN Educational, Cultural, and Scientific Organization outlined a series of concrete measures which must be implemented by all stakeholders, governments, regulatory authorities, civil society, and the platforms themselves. This approach includes the imposition of global policies through institutions such as governments and businesses designed to stop the spread of various forms of speech while promoting objectives such as cultural diversity and gender equality. In particular, the UN agency aims to create an internet of trust, Orwell's Ministry of Truth here, by targeting what it calls misinformation, disinformation, hate speech, and conspiracy theories. Now listen to this part, folks. Examples of expression flagged to be stopped or restricted include concerns about elections. Why would anybody have a concern about elections? Public health measures. Why would anybody have a question about health measures? And advocacy that could constitute incitement to discrimination. They want to take over the world, folks. One world tyrannical state that controls everything. And if you're not part of them, they just disappear you. You're never to be seen again. America, the people run our government. Our government cannot cede our control to a one world authority. That will be for sure American Revolution 2.0 if that happens. Ain't gonna happen. The Pope, I have a lot of Catholic friends, folks, Christian brothers and sisters. The Pope, though, most of them do not like this guy. He is a full-out communist. I think he's a godless communist. How he became Pope, I'm not Catholic. I'm a Protestant, Baptist. Tend to go to Baptist church, but Pope Red Francis goes from meeting with transgender sex workers in the Vatican to accusing Jews of terrorism. Then this, Pope Francis, climate change puts life on Earth at risk. Rome, Pope Francis asserted Sunday that global warming is contrary to God's plan and presents a significant risk to all life on Earth. Really? How about communism? How about socialism? How about Marxism? How about what Hamas just did to Jews in Israel? How about nuclear weapons? He's a globalist. He's part of the problem. Godless Christian hating. This is at Gateway Pundit, by the way. So was the last article. Godless Christian hating pro-Palestinian mob disrupts Christmas tree lighting in Ypsilanti, Michigan, chanting, "America is a terrorist state." These are the immigrants that we're letting flood across our border. You know, the religion of peace. They just sat down on the Manhattan Bridge in New York and shut down traffic. You know, immigration in this country, we used to have a sound immigration policy, believe it or not. And I keep saying this, I'm going to dig through because we've got a ton of Renee's paperwork and stuff from her family. And we were digging through it and we found immigration papers through Ellis Island of one of her relatives, early 1900s. Had to go through quarantine. Makes sense, right? We want to make sure no one's bringing a disease into the country. And they had to be coming here with a skill. We had to know they were going to contribute to this country. And these people weren't coming here looking for a free ride. They were looking for freedom. And not only that, they signed an oath to America. And I have a copy. I just have to find it. Because we're making sure that these were people that were immigrating to our country that America was going to benefit from. And what's happening is the opposite, my opinion. Overwhelming number of Americans, this any surprise to you folks, Gateway Pundit, overwhelming number of Americans would not volunteer to fight if U.S. entered in a major conflict. Who wants to go to war for Joe Biden? Who wants to go to war and defend Ukraine? Huh? No one wants to go. And I got news for all these young, woke, indoctrinated kids, unfortunately, that are many of them still living with mommy and daddy. When we go to war, if this administration, the track they're on, they're going to have us in kinetic warfare. They're only meeting 50% of their enlistment quotas, the military, because no one wants to go in the woke military. They are going to bring the draft back, my friends. The draft board is intact. The draft boards meet across the country annually, and they can flip that switch and be drafting your young souls to their war tomorrow. We probably are going to be going to war with Iran, and I think that's what's coming. I think there's going to be some major event before the election, folks. That look at the deep state and this illegitimate regime have everything to lose if Trump wins. Everything. They're going to do everything possible. And if that means stopping a war and invoking the War Powers Act to stay in power, they'll do it in a heartbeat, folks. They don't care about you. They don't care about your sons and daughters. It means nothing to them. Evil. China confronts U.S. warship, set Newsweek. China confronts U.S. warship as tensions grow over Flashpoint. Chinese said we drove, the American ship away because we're so powerful. What's going on over there, folks? International waters. The Chinese communists are just saying, no, these are our waters now. And we sail through them just as a reminder of, no, they're international waters, you Maoist communists. They're not yours. They just keep poking the bear, if you will. And they keep flying sorties into Taiwan, into their airspace. And I think what the Maoists are hoping for, and I think they're part of planning it, is to get us embroiled in a new war in the Middle East, maybe kinetic, joining troops on the ground in Ukraine. And then once we're tied up, we're Our military stocks are depleted because we're giving them to Ukraine and Israel now. Our strategic oil reserve is at an all-time low. Our military can't get people to enlist. I think when China sees us at our weakest point, they're going to attack Taiwan. Some say they're going to wait till 2034. I think if they see Trump, which, looks to me, Trump is going to be our president, I think their opportunity for American weakness doesn't get much better than right now. But let me know what you think in the comments below. And things are heating up, folks. North Korea moves heavy weapons to border with South. Seoul condemns provocative acts as tensions rise after launch of spy satellite in defiance of UN sanctions. And the little corpulent warlord over there is ready to launch his nukes at any second. The world's just not in a good place, is it? Where is my... there we go. There's my favorite picture of Donald Trump in the George Washington regalia leading the Patriots against the tyrannical government. I think we're heading, my New Year's prediction for this year, and it's on tape. We'll go over it. I said we're going to be in the greatest depression, not a recession, not a great recession, not a depression, but the greatest depression in World War III. And it may not happen this year, but it might in 2024. And so we'll go over that. But I think you should be prepping and planning for hard times. And if we dodge a bullet, thank God, right? Whatever you prep today and put away will be worth more tomorrow because in food inflation. I think I read an article, Thanksgiving meal, when they figured out everything that's in a traditional Thanksgiving dinner, it's up 60% since Biden took office. Just not going to get better. Renee and I bought by the way, I was going to show you this picture if I have it here. I do. If you wonder why I'm so happy and giddy, it's because of this. The snow is here. It's finally arrived. Anybody knows me knows I love winter. I get a little, bitchy when I'm ready for spring, but I like a brutal winter, man. Call me a sicko, whatever you want. I like a good blizzard. I like when the winds are howling and there's 12 foot of snow out there, and Renee and I are watching a nice movie by a cozy fire in our nice little warm house. I get a laugh at all the people that live down south. Oh, God, how do you put up with it? And I'm thinking in the summer when it's 100 degrees and you can't walk a block without being soaking wet from sweat, I'm thinking, how do you put up with it? I can dress for this. This is fun. I love winter. I love Christmas. I love the seasons. Anyways, where's our warrior? There he is. Renee and I bought a freeze dryer, by the way, and we are experimenting with it. Really like it so far. It runs a lot because it's a long process to freeze dry food, 24, 30-hour cycle. But the first you got to do a bread run. That kind of gets rid of the new car smell, and you just throw the bread away. Then we did blueberries and strawberries. I tasted the blueberries, man. They're like they're like Cocoa Puffs, but they're blueberry puffs. Crunch on them. They're delicious. Put a little water with them, rehydrate them, or put them on your cereal, or just eat them the way they are. And we did strawberries. And now we've got we're doing beef patties. So that's in there now. It's about 30 hours to do beef patties. But I love it, man. When you pull them out, you put them in the Mylar bags and you seal it, and they're good for 20 years. It's a big expense. A lot of preppers can't afford them. It's kind of you have arrived when you can get a freeze dryer. Most people I get it can't afford one. Just stock up canned meats and do the typical stuff, white rice and all that stuff. 2 Chronicles 7:14 reads, "If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. We need God on our side. Keep praying for America every day. Pray for our politicians. Pray for God's justice to sweep across this land through Congress, through the legislatures, through our courtrooms where it's desperately needed. And if this nation turns to God, God is going to hear us, and he's going to heal our land. Psalms 33:12, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. I believe God is going to save America. I believe God is doing great things with America. I believe Speaker Johnson was a miracle. And if we keep, if God is on our side, who can be against us, right? I can't stress enough to keep praying and keep prepping. Stack up, folks. I think we're in for a rough road. You know, the best view only comes after the hardest climb. But anyways, may God continue to bless you and keep you and your family safe. Each and every one of you needs to be involved in saving our country, folks. All hands on deck. Get involved. Do whatever it is you can do. The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Good men and good women. Until next time, your friend, Sons of Liberty out. See you guys.